Hi, my name is Mimi Perez. I am the program manager at IC Stars Milwaukee. And to share a little bit about my journey, my career path, I've got about just under 20 years of program experience. I started my career here in Milwaukee in the nonprofit sector, and I'm here intentionally. Part of that is because of the impact that I want to make in the city that I grew up in. And I have led program teams across different organizations here in Milwaukee and currently with IC Stars Milwaukee, where I get to partner with incredible leaders in our community and support them on their path to technology. And entry-level technology roles. And I get to do that in partnership with an incredible staff, a small but mighty staff here at IC Stars Milwaukee. And I'm really excited about the work that we get to do every single day.
Yeah. Thanks, Mimi. My name is Blanca Gonzales. I am the executive director for IC Stars. And a little bit about my career journey. I have a smidge more than Mimi did, about 25 years of nonprofit experience, and we worked in similar circles in the past. And so two of those organizations were national programs where I really learned a lot, volunteer-led organizations where I had an emphasis in prevention and intervention programs. And so that sort of has brought me full circle to what we're doing now at IC Stars, where we're taking amazing hidden talent in Milwaukee and really giving them an opportunity not to find work, but actually to find a career that they're very passionate in. And that just so happens to be the tech space. So, yeah, let's start off with some questions.
I'm going to choose the first
I
one.
am. All right, Mimi. How do you continue learning and growing at this stage of your career?
I don't know how to not learn and grow, especially like the learning part. I think for me, learning is just super like natural and organic. I find that I'm such a curious person. And that for me has looked like early in my career, just kind of soaking up the newness of the career in nonprofit and really getting to know myself as a professional. And I think now it's really kind of coming into my own, understanding pretty deeply like what I have to offer, what I still want to learn and grow from, and kind of seeking out those experiences. So I think for me in this point in my career, sort of like 20 years in, it's really around advocating for myself, really understanding kind of where I want my path to go from here, and then finding the people connected to that. For me, it's all about people and ensuring that I'm around really brilliant minds, people who are just so excited to do the work that I get to do with and for Milwaukeeans.
I love that response. I think, I would complement that with a lot of what you said is like the ability to be curious all the time, right, has led me to be an ongoing learner. And I think, in my career, I've always thought, sticking to your path, right? That's what you got to know, and you got to learn that well. And what I've learned is like, there's a big gift in looking outside of your career also and being curious about that. And so I think that's where asking those questions, right, about other areas. And I think the tech space has really taught me how to lean in that, is to be, how do we problem solve this? Is it necessarily just a technology thing? Is this a political thing? Is this a budget thing? Is this finance? Whatever the case might be, it leads me to want to be curious about more.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a gift to actually really be able to look more outside than what is your area.
Which is so interesting because, Blanca, you come to tech from sort of this outside kind of point of view. And so I think like you're an incredible embodiment of like being curious and always wanting to grow and learn. And I'm just like wondering, like, what has that journey been like for you coming into a field that you weren't traditionally trained in either, just like our interns?
let me say, no, I was not trained into it. I don't have a technology background. It's more of a fundraising background I had. But what I did have was the ability to be a people person and really hold conversations to really understand what people are passionate about. And also to be curious about what are some of the issues that some people are dealing with, right? And so for my area, it was always dealing with the heart of Milwaukee, right? Where there are some complications, but then also a lot of great things that happen at the heart of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So how do we celebrate that? But how do we also problem solve together to find out what can we help with, in Milwaukee?
Yeah. Yeah, problem solving. It's kind of what we do. But I think we can move on to the next question. Do you mind if I ask you this leadership question?
You may.
Okay. What does authentic leadership mean to you in practice, and what holds you accountable?
Ooh. So going back to our last conversation, the tech space isn't anything that I was in. For me, it's really being important to be who you are authentically, right? I love the fact that people say, we grew up somewhat sharing with people, you may have to code switch a little bit. And what I am learning is that although that does happen, being your true self, coming authentically, is probably one of the best assets that you're going to have. So I love when our interns come into our program. I want to tell them I'm not a technologist. I don't come from that area. But what I am is a people person. What I am is a fundraiser. What I am is an advocate.
Yeah.
And I want to help you be able to get to your next destination. I think for me, that's like super important when it comes, really being able to be your authentic self. How about you?
Yeah, I think same, 100%. And I think what I'll add on the leadership side is really around showing up as someone who is a learner. So I'm also making connections to the learning and growth and curiosity piece. For me, leadership is about knowing that the person at the front of the room is not the only leader in the room. Oftentimes it is, and oftentimes people think that the leader is the person at the front. And we talk all the time to our interns about how they have opportunities, really incredible opportunities to lead themselves, one another. And there's so much learning and growth and leadership that can come from different points of view and different experiences. And for me, the leadership in practice is modeling that leadership can look like a lot of different things, including asking questions. And sometimes it's not knowing the answer to those questions and allowing for others in the room to either answer those questions and or take the lead on strategy, vision, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And then also, right, the leader isn't the one who always has all the answers too, right? I mean, I think that's the beauty of really being authentic, is saying, I don't have all the answers to your questions, but this is really where, like the tech part in us is like, let's problem solve this together. Let's hear the perspectives, right, from everybody. And let's try to see what that looks like when we formulate, an answer to what those questions are.
Yeah, that can be really powerful.
I love it. All right.
Thank you.
Why Milwaukee?
Real excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. What's something uniquely Milwaukee about the way you, your team, or your company operates?
I love this question, and in particular, the piece about how our team operates. So I was born and raised here in Milwaukee, as you know, Blanca. Very much love our city. Intentionally, raised my own daughter here. Was, in community, but deeply here. And I think the thing that I think about when I think about what's uniquely Milwaukee is this incredibly collaborative effort. We have this thing that we call small walkie, and there are a lot of sort of people connections. But more than that, there's a small to medium sized town vibe around how we connect with one another.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think that the way that our team really sort of navigates is very similar to how we in Milwaukee kind of like move here, which is you know a lot of people, and if you don't know somebody, you know somebody who knows that person. Relationships matter so much. I think, Blanca, your leadership in particular is one that really sort of like grounds us in this idea that like relationships really matter. And so not only for sustaining our organization through things like fundraising and things like that, but like partnership work, who our interns are and how we bring them and acclimate them into our community, and then how we support them afterwards. So I really think that that's a very uniquely Milwaukee kind of like framework or understanding, and I'm really proud that we get to like be who we are here and at IC Stars as well.
You know, and I think going back to Milwaukee, right? There's something to be said about that, right? Like I love Milwaukee. True 414, right? Southside, you know, raised. And I will say one of the things that us Milwaukeeans love about Milwaukee is that we want to see Milwaukee win.
Yes.
And so right at IC Stars, what we want to do is develop that talent.
Yeah.
Not to go somewhere else and work. We want them to bring that to Milwaukee. We want them to stay in Milwaukee, the talent to be here and, you know, improve and, you know, and have a thriving Milwaukee, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's letting our interns, letting anybody know Milwaukee is big enough to move around, but Milwaukee's small enough to really be seen also, right?
Right.
Huge advantage. And so what do they say? Is it at one point in time, it was 8 degrees of separation, 12 degrees I've heard. Who knows what the separation is, but it's
like 4 here.
Yeah, it's half of that now, right? From 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
And when I look at that, I was like, man, the opportunity really to have a career in Milwaukee, it's pretty significant. And so I love it.
Yeah, same. All right. What's next? If you were advising the next generation of Milwaukee tech leaders, what would you tell them to focus on? Matter of fact, we are.
I would advise them that staying true to yourself is going to be huge, right? In being in this ecosystem. Because once again, 4 degrees of separation, people know you, and you want to make sure that you're seen. And that's important, right? We always tell our interns, you want a seat at the table, but when you get to the table, you want to make sure that you're being heard also. You want decision-making ability at the table. And so I think, you know, when it comes to what's next is continuing to uplift, continuing to upskill, continuing to stay curious is going to be always my advice for the next generation of tech leaders, of any leader, actually.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what I'll add to all of that awesomeness is really sort of understanding that their point of view, oftentimes, so, you know, our interns are non-traditionally trained and, you know, often are coming into tech from a different sort of pathway. But that in and of itself is the reason why they're going to be so sought after in the tech ecosystem. They come with a different point of view. They come with a different set of experiences that is so valued in the ecosystem. And I think they're, you know, the awareness of that and the understanding that they do have a really valuable point of view in addition to the, you know, the tech training that they're getting through our program or other experiences, is really going to be a game changer for the entire ecosystem. I think that the more our interns and others really understand that, I think the more valued they'll be. So I'm excited for that as well.
I agree. I think that Milwaukee, there's a lot of possibilities, and I think there's a lot of talent here that is in our neighborhoods, in our backyards, that we have yet to see. And I'm excited about what that's going to look like for the future.
Yeah, same.
Career path. Yes. Mimi, how has your professional network supported you in your career?
Oh, immensely. So again, you know, we are in a really small city, and Milwaukee is a thing. And so the network is really incredible here. In fact, I think one of the things that comes to mind when I hear this question is around this idea that I never really had to find a job on a job board and apply for the job and then go through the process. I've always found my jobs through other people, and so through my network. And so when I look back to, my career and think about those moments where, I knew someone who was hiring or I knew someone at an organization, it's been really, really cool to be able to sit down, have conversations, figure out if this is a right fit for me or if the company is the right fit for me. And so that's been super powerful. And I think when I think about the network, I think about that's a really cool way to find jobs is through people. And as someone who's a people person, kind of through and through, that makes sense for me. Mm-hmm. It's just for me, it's about people first. So,
and us Milwaukeeans, we know where people are at, right?
Yes.
Definitely our social networks help keep us connected. But I will say, I agree with you. Knowing people just in Milwaukee will really help you be able to get to your next place, right? And if you're fortunate, right, enough like you were in your career to have a network like that. And I think that's the beauty that we share in IC Stars is your network is everything and it's your net worth, right? And so keeping that alive is really important.
Right. Yeah. So leadership. Okay. How do you create momentum within teams? How do you see momentum leveraged across the ecosystem? That's a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah, creating momentum within teams. I think it's about celebrating the wins. I think it's really easy always to focus on what do we have to improve? Where did we go wrong? And I think celebrating the wins is really important, right? Yeah. These are the learning lessons about what do we want to do? How do we keep doing this? And I think, it's very easy in a leadership way to say, we need to raise this much more. We need to bring in this many more members. When the fact of the matter is, let's focus on what really we're doing well, right? And continue on with that momentum.
I think the creating momentum within teams, in addition to some of the pieces around celebrating wins as a team, I think celebrating wins sort of individually too, and really understanding what each person kind of brings to the organization, to the team, in a way that really kind of highlights and centers in on their superpower. I think it's Strengths Finder that really, has this philosophy that when you're focusing on your strengths, that really is going to elevate you as a professional, as opposed to kind of the opposite, not really being true, around focusing on weaknesses. And so I absolutely agree. Momentum is created in teams and individually through a lot of the wins that we're able to name. And I think similarly, if we're looking across the ecosystem, doing that for our organizations and really sort of not doing this pat on the back, but really sort of uplifting the wins of different companies, of different sort of people doing work, small teams of people doing work, large teams of people doing work, in a way that that brings synergy and real motivation to the not just our region, but to tech broadly, which is really exciting. I think, especially since Milwaukee is sort of centering ourselves as sort of a tech sort of spotlight in the Midwest, and it could be really, really powerful for us to really, when we create that momentum, to really kind of start to be looked at across the country as a region that is really making moves there.
And I think that's one thing to celebrate, right? Is the fact that when you are able to support each other like we do in Milwaukee, the tech ecosystem here is tight, right? But being able to reach out and know that you can get an answer right away, someone's willing to participate, someone's willing to be on a panel, someone's willing to share a technology. this is when you know that Milwaukee's doing it right. We're on the right, going in the right direction. I mean, we have data centers here that are coming to Wisconsin. This is something that I don't know if we could have ever predicted, right? But Microsoft being able to do an investment in here, this shows that Milwaukee, Wisconsin is in the right direction. That's everything to be celebrated when you're talking about really building momentum. There's a lot here happening where people are noticing on a national level. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Blanca, this was so great. Thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed the questions.
Mimi, I enjoy always having conversations with you. You are amazing to talk to, another fellow Milwaukeean. Yeah, this has been special. Thank you.